All right, going live, and it looks like we are live.
Hey everybody!
Hello.
Happy Tuesday. I think is it Tuesday?
Nope, Wednesday.
Oh damn! I already got something wrong.
It's the Tuesday of a short week.
Tuesday of a short week. Wait, Wednesday of a wait. What?
It's the second work day, so it's kind of like the Tuesday.
It's adjusted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Adjusted for deflation.
Yeah. Yeah, we got a lot of stuff to talk about. We're going to be talking about Intel's roadmap. Clearly, Intel is still swinging hard at everybody. Also, the news this morning with their, the PU parts, the P and the U parts. That's, I don't know. And then we're going to be talking about the Newegg fiasco. I think is probably a mess. I don't know what to describe it at this point. So,
oh boy, yeah, there's a lot to describe there.
Disaster,
That's for sure.
PR fiasco, disaster. Yeah.
Nice. All right.
Yeah.
Oh, always stuff to talk about here around the PC world.
There is always,
right?
and it's going to be exciting. This year is going to be really exciting, I think, for people into computers, PCs, because it's, there's nothing like competition to make everybody's blood run, and everybody's blood is running at Intel and AMD and NVIDIA, and Apple too, right? And I guess Qualcomm too. Actually, there was a great interview over on AnonTech that Ian had done, Dr. Ian Cuttress with Qualcomm.
All the gloves are off. It's exciting to see. Hopefully, chip supply keeps up with it all.
Right, we're not even talking about that
good.
rumor of the GPU shortage. Somebody was saying the GPU shortage is a month away from being over. Is that?
I'll believe it when I see it. I've heard that before.
All right, yeah. So we'll see. We will see. Cool. We got all the friends of the show in here. Hello. Oh, you know what? And speak of the devil, Dr. Ian Cuttress is here. Oh, and he would like to say that the interview that you just mentioned is also on the Tech Potato channel.
Oh, cool.
So,
and I'm very interested. I mean, I read go again. Please read that interview over at AnonTech and view the video over at Tech Potato. But I'm interested because I know I talk a lot of smack about ARM, and I have for years. And Apple really sort of like, whoa. Actually, you can make it work if you control everything. So, I mean, I have personally my doubts because I talk lots of smack about Qualcomm. I have my doubts as to whether they can do it or not, but I'm open-minded. Again, I have a very open mind. I think M1 was, for what it is in that ecosystem, it's awesome. Whether that can be replicated by Qualcomm on Windows, I don't know, but we'll see, right? So.
We will see.
I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah, that's the thing is you got to believe it when you see it, right? Just like Arc, right? You just got to I have high hopes, but you got to prove it, right? So same thing with all the other stuff. So
yeah, some people saying the same thing for Newegg. Let's see the changes when they believe it. So we'll get there. We'll get there.
Yes, I know. We'll see, right?
All right, fun stuff.
This is 207.
207, episode 207. We've made it this far. We should keep going.
Yeah.
Also, friend of the show, Showback Tech, in the chat. What's going on? Travis, how you doing? He's got us on the big screen today. That's always fun.
Oh, cool. It's kind of neat. I mean, as much as we rag on the internet, it's pretty cool to be able to do real-time interaction and then to your TV.
Yeah.
You could never. Could you imagine like calling up like Walter Cronkite in the 1950s or 1960s? Like, hey, what's up with this?
That's how I actually watched your interview when you had Ian on here for one of the chip launches. I watched you guys right on the big screen.
There you go. Boom. Yeah. If you haven't already, put the full nerd on the big screen. Also, some people are asking before we go. I'm not in a different place. I just moved the camera. The camera used to be right here, but now it's right there. So I'm in the same spot, just a different camera move. I think it makes more sense because when Gordon looks at me, so look at me, Gordon. You're looking that way. You're looking to camera right. And then when I look at Gordon, I'm looking this way. So now our eyes are meeting. It's a stupid cinema thing that is bugging me for 206 episodes. I finally changed it. So now we're both looking the same way.
Which one?
So look at me, Gordon. So, no,
Wait,
at me,
at you.
me personally, yeah. So
Right, that's Adam.
now you're looking this way.
There's a camera.
and
What's this
now I'm
camera?
looking this way.
There's
That
cameras
one's not
everywhere.
on. Yeah, there's
Is
cameras
that
everywhere.
overheating Canon?
No, I sent those back. Those are donezo.
What a disaster that was.
Yeah.
As a longtime Canon user, let me say it. It's
Oh, boy.
it's on brand for disasters. So
Yeah. And Andre says, wow, it's refreshing to see a different side of Adam. Yeah, there we go. Also, look, it works well because the chat is right here. I was always looking away from the chat, or looking away from the camera when I would look at the chat. Now the chat's right here. So it just, I don't know why I never changed it. I just did. Trying to make changes around here. There are some big changes coming to PC World's YouTube. So, trying to make some changes
Cool.
for the show as well. So anyway, that's all inside baseball. We should get going before everyone falls asleep.
we should. I'm trying to organize the slides here because we got a few slides here, although some of them have watermarks.
Wait, you're not sending me new slides, are you?
No, the same ones.
Oh, okay, same ones.
I
Okay.
think you got those, right? The ones I just sent over
Yeah,
with
you did.
my email address plastered all over them. Yeah.
Yep.
No, wait. Did I? Yeah.
Yes, you
yeah,
did.
because I. Yeah, good job.
And J.W. Dickinson says changes are scary. They don't like changes. I totally get it. It's still the same full nerd, just with a camera move. Don't worry.
So wait,
My,
it is
my
the
email
one-
address is right on my Twitter account, so I don't even feel bad about the watermark slides.
Oh, okay. So that's no problem. It's actually a feature. In fact, it is actually a feature of these slides. I will not complain about them. See,
It's a
actually-
feature. Yeah. All right. Cool. You are you ready, Gordon?
Yeah. Let me just delete that. Delete this. Okay, here we go.
Okay. Let me pull this and go ahead, Gordon.
In this episode of Full Nerd, Intel roadmap leads to victory, P and U parts from Intel, and Newegg PR fiasco. Welcome to episode 207 of The Full Nerd. I'm your host, Gordon Mong, with co-host Brad Charkis.
Hello, Internet.
And I'm Patrick Murray, controlling the vertical and horizontal.
Hey, it's Wednesday. We've been doing these shows not on Tuesdays recently. We're just kind of all over the place. But Wednesdays is going to be the new showtime for a little bit. As long as there's not
Yes.
other stuff that comes up. So
It is Wednesdays, my dudes.
Wednesdays, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool, man. We got a good group of people here. We already have 2 super chats. Wow, look at this. Eek44 gave us 45 Danish krone. Thank you so much. Said new haircut and trimmed beard. Brad, you look hot. Looking
Thank you.
hot, Brad, and that shirt too. Showing
I
it off.
hate this shirt. I had adulting to do today, so had to switch out of my nerd shirts.
I got a super chat, although it's not a super chat. It's a direct text message from Greg Viederman, the Veed, who
Okay.
every about 3 years. I mean, that's how much of a PC gamer he is. For people who don't know, not old timers, Greg Viederman was the EIC of PC Gamer. Also, their longtime hardware reviewer, and we used to give each other a load of crap all the time when we were at a previous employer. And he has a question about DDR4 versus DDR5. We'll save that for later.
Oh, look at that. Yeah, wow. It's a text chat. Don't get your text chats in unless you already have our number. I
Well,
guess.
it's cheap. He doesn't have to pay a super chat. He just simply sends me the text.
Is he watching the show?
I
Or does he
told
just
him-
do it out of the blue?
He didn't, I said, hey, I'll answer it on the podcast. So I'm like, hey, you need to watch it because I'm not going to you're getting the information for free, but you're going to have to digest the YouTube. It's like, I'm not going to watch this for 2 hours.
Exactly. Yeah. If you want to know the scoop. Also, if you weren't here for the pre-show, you should be watching the Full Nerd on a TV. Just put us up on the big screen.
Yeah. Go for it.
It's always fun. Anyway, transition time. Also, Intel put up on the big screen their roadmaps, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's a big deal. They basically are laying out their accelerated our leadership roadmap. So it's a roadmap to success, basically, as I alluded before. They think this is what's going to give them the go ahead to win everything. Accelerated with 5 nodes in 4 years. which is I don't is
Dang.
that slide up. It's crazy because we're
Wait, which the first one?
yeah. So in
Okay.
the first slide,
Got
it's basically right now where we are. Actually, it's kind of cool because it's like this is like if this were your Google map, you'd be here right now. Like although it probably like if it were Google Maps, it would say, "Would you like to buy an AMD CPU?" Because that's the way Google works. Because they pay for it. But they have the 2021-2022 Alder Lake, which is here now, based on Intel 7. Awesome CPU, clearly for desktop people. Also, clearly pretty damn fast in laptops too. And they are saying, "Hey, we're also going to ship Raptor Lake this year." And then they're saying 2023, 2024 Meteor Lake and Arrow Lake on Intel 4, which I had to look up. That's a 7 nanometer on some people's yardsticks, and then for Intel, it's Intel 4, and then they're going to roll out also that same thing will be a combo chip, right? This is sort of their whole tile design with 20A, which is 20 angstrom. This is like, oh, forget your old nanometer. Why don't you put that with your what microns? Like, oh, it's 130 micron chip or whatever it was. But this is basically, 0.13 micron. So this is basically Intel saying, hey, we gotta change up the scale here because we're gonna have some 20 angstrom chips, and then external N3, which it's somebody else's stuff. Basically, the cool thing with the tile design, as I get it, is they can use other people's chips on an Intel CPU. I don't know whose it's gonna be, what it's going to be used for. I don't wish I didn't read Mark's story, but go read Mark's story on PC World to find out what it is. I don't know. I'm kind of wondering, could be ARM, could craziness, like it could be anything, right? Who knows?
Yeah.
And then 2024 Lunar Lake, we're going to move to 18 angstrom and external process. It's crazy.
Lunar Lake.
Yeah.
Cool name. I like that name. You know, I guess that's a real lake. That's what they've been doing, is naming it after real lakes, right?
Yeah, you know, they Intel generally, as I understand it, the team that works on it gets to sort of pitch what they want it to be codenamed, and then I think it goes through an entire, funnel of decisions to make sure it's, not copyrighted or somebody owns it or whatever. And then I do like the lake thing, though. Sometimes it does kind
Yeah. Raptor Lake sounds super cool. Just the name Raptor Lake, I really like. Arrow Lake, Meteor Lake, Lunar Lake. The cool thing about Raptor Lake is when they were showing it off, that's coming late this year. It's going to have a lot more cores than what they have now. I think Alder Lake tops out with 6 performance cores and 8 efficiency cores. They were showing off a high 8-end Raptor Lake system that has 8 performance cores and 16 efficiency cores. So that'll be a big upgrade.
Yeah, and that's in the next slide, Adam. So they're basically 24 cores because it's got 24 cores, a lot of those efficiency cores, 32 threads. And actually, I saw this somewhere. It was a really good idea. I was like, hey, you know what? If you just, for Intel, because it always like sort of breaks your brain trying to figure out like, well, how many performance cores, how many E cores? Just take the number of threads and subtract the number of cores. So 32 threads, subtract 24 cores. Bing, 8 performance cores.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Kind of works, right?
There you
Yeah,
go.
that works really
Yeah.
well. Good math there. Good math tip. It's somebody not good at. They're also saying enhance overclocking features, an AI M.2 module, and socket compatible with Alder Lake. So this will fit into existing LGA 1700 platforms. And
Oh.
What?
Well, that's
Do we have
good.
any idea what AIM2 module means? I saw that and I go, what is that?
I'm guessing it's basically it's Raptor Lake, so it's going to be for clients. So it's going to be some kind of, AI accelerator that's going to go into an M.2 module. And I would imagine maybe just didn't fit into the socket or into the chip, and also maybe like not everybody needs this, but maybe if you need it, like, so I think a lot of people still have a hard time getting like, what is the point of AI? It just sounds like some kind of baloney that I'm sold on a really bad Robin Williams movie. But there are some really cool use cases if it's actually supported, like especially for photography, for photo, for video, the image recognition stuff that you're doing. I've been doing a lot of Topaz Lab stuff. And it's pretty neat because, you can really, and you're also seeing it in Adobe products, right? So you're seeing it in Photoshop where you can go in and you can use AI to intelligently remove the layer, the background for the sky and put something else in. And there's an aging thing that NVIDIA is actually working with Adobe on. So a lot of the AI focus, I think, is mostly around image, possibly also as it pertains to video eventually too, but it has to be supported. But it is really neat when you use it.
That's interesting to me because we'll talk about this later. ARC GPUs are coming out this year, and we had Tom Peterson on here for an interview last year, and it was a really great interview. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. Reading between the lines, everything he says, it's clear that AI is going to be a big deal for ARC and XeSS. Now, I wonder if that could be used to accelerate that.
I suppose so. I think to me would be really awesome. You would already, you assume, get some kind of support for whatever is going on from Photoshop for Raptor Lake. You're already getting it in Alder Lake, but maybe this is something even more but it seems to me like if you're actually going to purpose build an AI card that's focused for consumers, it's got to be for a product that they're going to use. So maybe we're going to see some kind of really cool ass application support out of Adobe or maybe even a Microsoft product that it will make it worth it. So but that it is an M.2 module kind of makes you go like, well, obviously it's not going to be that. It's not going to be worth integrating to every single CPU, but for the people who do need it, it's going to be pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's interesting because XeSS, I'm not whatsoever sure how to pronounce it. Yeah, that has extra tricks if you have supported AI Intel hardware in there. So I wonder if that'll be a way to sneak that in there because that's open sourced as well. So, interesting. All right, sorry, I'm getting distracted. Continue.
No, and it is very hard to find because every time people talk about AI, it's just like whatever. It's just like your eyes gloss over because of some kind of baloney. Somebody wants to sell you a extended car warranty. Almost you don't care because it has zero bearing on what you do in reality.
Hi, Gordon. We're trying to reach you about your AI.
Yeah, we talk about your extended AI M.2 module, but having used the applications that will use it, it's pretty cool. Like again, I a lot of times we get images out our way too low res. And I use Topaz Labs, the gigapixel feature, and you can basically intelligently increase the resolution of a photo or a piece of art, and it looks way better than just trying to do it, normal bicubic or other, Photoshop less intelligent means. So you would imagine that's just going to get cooler. And then, I think clearly the AI application that people are already using or seeing is on your phone where Google's like, hey, check this memory out from 5 years ago from your family where you wore this shirt, and it really can do kind of that stuff, which I know creeps people out, but it's also like, having something that intelligently does that for you is neat. And I really like, for me, for the killer feature for AI on the PC is I have a ton of old videos and a ton of old photos. My sorting method is to throw them all into one hard drive and they just sit there forever, right? But if I could have it go through my hard drive and sort out, who to find people or to find scenes, just like the way you are with your phone,
or like Google Photos does
right, well,
really
Google
well.
Photos,
I can just search for my cat BB and it shows pictures of BB. I didn't even tag her.
Right, and you could just go in like, hey, I need this cat photo from 10 years ago in Oakland, right? And it could go in and do that, and that's cool stuff on the PC if it ever gets there. So I think there's a lot of promise if it ever gets there, but we're not quite there yet. Oh, and the next slide is Meteor Lake. It's amazing, right? This is like, they are really showing off a lot of hardware, and again, Intel's roadmap for a long time has been like, and there's like, hey, where are you going? Oh, we don't know. 14 nanometer. What's the next stop? 14 nanometer. Where's that stop after that? It's 14 nanometer. Like, we're got kind of like tired there, but the fact that they are showing off, Intel 4 Meteor Lake, Q2 22 shipping in 2023 that's really promising. But again, they got to deliver, right? I mean, that's sort of the problem with Intel is they burned all their capital. Like, you were telling me we're going to get to whatever 10 nanometer like years ago. It took like an extra 5 hours. I'm not going to believe you. So this, I got to believe. I'll believe it when I see it, right?
Well, there's Meteor Lake is the first use of extreme ultraviolet lithography for Intel, which is a next gen, chip making technology that people have been talking up for close to a decade at this point. So it's been on the radar. Dr. Ian Cutress, he has an excellent video up on Tech Potato. It was his last interview at Antec as well with Ann Kelleher, I think her name is, the lead of technology development at Intel. And she was actually talking about how part of the reason that 10 nanometer wound up being a troubled, development issue is because they were betting big on EUV being available. And when it wasn't, a lot of things went sideways. So I'm real interested to see what that winds up looking like in practice.
Yeah, no, I mean, we'll see, right? Because EUV has been talking about for a long time, and it looks like, I guess, whatever the problems are, I guess they've solved it. I did an interview looking at breaking Moore's law, like how chip makers are advancing stuff, all the way back in I think 2013, and they were already talking about EUV back then. So it's been a long time coming. Yeah, I mean, we're finally looks like maybe the roadmap, but again, it's you. I think the problem with Intel is they had this reputation of always executing no matter what, like a Terminator, and then suddenly it was like, oh boy, it's just like they just drove off the road and we're stuck in the woods forever. And it looks like this is pretty good, but they got to prove it to me. But I didn't realize there's actually a next gen graphics engine in Meteor Lake as well. So, I think them showing all this is kind of driving home that this is what Intel was known for, executing rapid development and all that, and them signaling like, look, we're getting back to this 5 nodes in 4 years. That's very aggressive considering their recent struggles. So, heck yeah. Yeah, no, the one thing that AMD said, maybe 3 years ago, was one thing that they thought was going to work out in their favor, which has spectacularly, is previously AMD would creep right up on Intel, pass them up a little bit, and then Intel would just bust out with a new process and just kind of run away with it. But they thought the slowing of Moore's law would really limit Intel's ability to just kind of like jump on process to get away from them again. And we don't know if this is going to work out that way, but it looks like Intel may have its process back in order. So that is good for Intel, not necessarily good for AMD, possibly. We'll see, but
Santio, friend of the show, Santio says, yeah, bring back the TikTok strategy.
Yeah, I don't know what this is. This seems like it's even beyond TikTok. If you're talking about by 2024, we're going to do what? Intel 7, Intel 4, Intel 20A, 18A by 2024. That is a crap load of change.
I went looking to see if they specifically mentioned TikTok again, like TikTok is back, but they did not, unfortunately.
Yeah, I don't think they are. But the flexible tiled architecture will be exciting to see in action.
Yeah.
Look how tiny that CPU tile. This is slide 3 there for the Intel. That CPU tile is just tiny.
Nice. What else they got on their roadmap then?
I think for the stuff that pertains to client PC, which is desktop PC, laptop for us, that's most of the exciting news. I think they haven't. I don't think they talked much about the graphics stuff though, right?
They did talk some about the graphics stuff, but before I move on to that, I think it's interesting that Intel, for all of these, rather than tossing out performance metrics, as far as raw performance, they were focused on playing up the percent increase in performance per watt on all of these, which is something that AMD has been doing recently. Like we were just last week talking about AMD's new laptops, and they were saying all this Zen 3 Plus stuff, that's pure power improvements. That's what we're doing to drive this stuff. And it looks like Intel is looking to do the same thing. So I just find that interesting.
Yeah. Well, I mean, performance per watt has been a big deal for, and it's not just because of what Apple has done, because if you look at it, it's driven most of what's happened on the PC. And that's because, when you get data center, those super data centers, they don't like paying for electricity. And it's sort of like a gate to performance. So they want that power density. And building a Pentium 4 for servers did not really work. So,
well, I mean, that really, I think I talked about it on a recent episode, but that really drives performance too, even though you might not think about it. Because I always think of it in terms of NVIDIA's Maxwell. Like NVIDIA Maxwell came out, killer performance per watt, decent performance increase compared to the previous gen, but just way better performance per watt with the 900 series. And then after they had that nailed down, then GTX 10 series came out and was just leagues better than that was anything beforehand because they built on the back of that performance per watt. So that just illustrates how big of a difference that can make.
Yeah. And
Go ahead.
I was just saying it really does. It gets to the whole point because I know a lot of people go like, well, computers, PCs use a lot of power. And the argument from the industry would be like, we're already solving it. We've been heading because our way to consume less power and be faster, that's just simply the path to win. You don't have to regulate us to make us do this. So that's one argument against sort of like handcuffing the PC industry into meeting certain power regulations because it feels like that's the only way to beat your competition anyway. So
Yep. And even if you're drawing down 450 watts, might as well make it be as most efficient as possible. Like get more done with it. So performance per watt's great.
yeah.
Intel did also make some Arc GPU announcements as part of its Investors Day, I believe it was. They said that we will see Alchemist graphics cards and laptops this quarter. We will see desktop graphics cards next quarter and workstation graphics cards after that. They're hoping to ship 4 million discrete parts this year. Next gen Battlemage GPUs will be next year. They're also working on an enthusiast part called Celestial. And they also teased what sounds like it might be like a GeForce Now kind of competitor or virtual cloud kind of thing called Project Endgame, which is an interesting name to me, where you can, tap into Arc Alchemist from the cloud. So, and that's launching next year.
So I saw that. That's 4 million sounds like an awful lot, right? That's definitely a good chunk of GPUs. But I think John Petty via Ryan Smith over at AnandTech was saying that's 10% maybe 40 million. Add-in boards, discrete graphics total is the total amount roughly shipped. So this sounds like a lot. 4 million sounds like a lot, but it's not a huge amount. Although I would argue that's 4 million in an era when basically zero is available to people. That's pretty good. So
yeah, the world could use 10% more GPUs right now.
Right? Yeah, 10%. Sure, that's maybe a small number compared to the competitors, but 10% more GPUs in the hands of gamers. That's pretty good. We do have a friend of the show, Almost Famous, says Project Endgame is the end of PC gaming. What do you think, Gordon?
No, it's just not. It's just I think no, it's not going to happen. No, just simply no. But you don't. That doesn't just because no means doesn't mean you just sit back and like you let cloud gaming surpass you. You always have to continue to move forward. I always wonder for the music industry, which streaming is pretty much they were locked into it, but look at the technology changes the music industry did, right? It was like stereo content. Did you ever change anything? High res content. You played a little bit with like whatever quad content, but like it really, for the most part, music really didn't change because it's an art, but it is sold to you through a mechanism. And if you look at Hollywood, it's like, hey, you know what? We're gonna sell you, high def video. Like, oh, you mean 1080p? No, 720p. Oh, now we're gonna sell you 1080p. Now we got 4K. Now we got 8K. And we got HDR. We have, there's sort of like Hollywood versus the music industry continually sold you the same damn thing over and over and over again, right? And it's just simply because it got better. So streaming is awesome, but as we heard from the Blu-ray people, they want the highest quality possible, so that's always going to be there. I would argue the PC's always, you're never going to beat the latency of a computer sitting next to your leg under your desk
never
versus cloud. So, but no, it's never going to happen.
Even if you have your nice 10 gig fiber connection, right, Gordon?
Yeah, no. Yeah,
it's a low ping, but not low enough ping.
One other thing that was interesting that has nothing to do with streaming but ties together CPUs and GPUs is Meteor Lake, the tiled 2023, I think it was Intel 4 CPUs that we were just talking about have the tiled approach. And Raja Kaduri, who is the head of graphics at Intel, he's been on the show before, says that tiled architecture will let that work with their next gen Battle Mage Arc GPUs. So all in the same package. And his quote is, "This is super exciting. It allows us to offer discrete graphics class performance with the efficiency of integrated graphics. It's a new class of graphics. You can't really call it integrated or discrete. And this is just the beginning." So
That's why on that chart it says TGPU, right?
I can't see the chart, so I don't know.
Interesting. Do you think, though, is it because I've been seeing a lot of stories saying, oh, the GPU shortage is getting way better now. Is that true? Because I one kind of the one problem I'm like with Intel is like, if you could have launched this thing 6 months ago or 12 months ago, it would have been immediate instant success no matter what. I'm just afraid like, oh, you're going to launch this just as like the entire world is awash in GPUs suddenly. You know, that's
imagine
really
that timing, right?
Prices are getting better because crypto prices have gone down so much, which is a big driver for all this. But they're still ludicrous. Aside from the RX 6500 XT, you're not going to be able to just go easily buy a graphics card. I was at Best Buy this weekend. There was nothing on the shelves. So we're going to have to see how it goes. Like there's been a couple times over the past year or two that crypto took a dip and everyone's like, oh, you know, salvation is coming. And then it just turned around and went right back up. So I'm very much wait and see. I'm not prognosticating on that.
So it's like a bad slasher movie where it's like, oh, it's over. No, not really. Jason's going to come back. I don't know. Don't open that door.
Hopefully not, but possibly.
I just don't know how much to believe it because I went looking and the 6500 XT is available for 260-ish, but that's about it that I could find.
Yeah, I mean the videos I've seen, Steve, or I'm sorry, over at Hardware Unboxed, and then I think Paul did one too, just like tracking the price changes for GPU. It's going down, but it's still nowhere near MSRP, obviously. But it looks like it's getting better.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. The news is, yay! Graphics cards are only 69% over MSRP. Kind of deal,
not 82. Yeah, whoops.
That's not good.
I'm getting there. Hopefully getting there. But that would be interesting timing. It's like if things all of a sudden do change within a couple months, and then Intel's like, "Oh, hey, we showed up with the GPUs. Yay, we got it!" And everybody's like, "Oh, well, actually."
I mean, but don't you think that's the play NVIDIA's going to make though? Is they're going to like, you know what? We are going to every month. Yeah, I know everybody needs more GPUs, but we're going to pull away just a little bit, and then we're just going to just bomb everybody with graphics cards. So like they get to like 20% over MSRP. And you would do that right around the Intel launch. And you would launch next generation cards because Intel or NVIDIA is going to, they're going to go hard at Intel.
Well,
they don't want Intel to succeed here. So.
True. But it isn't the bigger worry for somebody like NVIDIA is that if prices do come back down, then you have all these miners who have secondhand cards that flood the market. And, you know.
That's what happened last time. It's a very different world right now, though. Yeah, so we'll have to see. Yeah, we'll have to see. Everybody still wants graphics cards. Everyone got into PC gaming during the pandemic, but hasn't been able to buy them. So it's very hard to tell what actual supply and demand is right now.
I guess the other question, too, is whether it's going to snap back because it feels like it's been so bad for so long. A lot of people are just, they went out and they're going to play GeForce Now. They're going to go buy a console or whatever. They just have sort of given up because it's been so hard to buy a graphics card. Once they're available, will there be like suddenly, oh my God, people are going to go nuts because suddenly you're going to see this huge increase in gaming PCs show up because now everybody wants to build a gaming PC because you can buy GPUs again? Or have they gone away forever is the question. I don't know.
Hopefully not. We'll see.
Yeah, I would think not because I still, again, that's my bias. I believe in the superior platform of the PC over consoles, over handhelds, over everything, because I still think it's an experience that is unique, that clearly has, lived through decades and decades of use. So it feels like everybody's just waiting for it to get better. So it should snap back, I think.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, anything else on the roadmap we want to cover?
I don't think so. Again, just wait and see, right? Raptor Lake it'll be interesting. 24 core desktop CPU aimed at sort of consumers might be a little hard to justify. It always felt like 16 was kind of the limit, but we'll see, right? Do you really need... I mean, Threadripper was awesome. Not a lot of people bought Threadripper 32 cores that were regular people, right? For content creators, 3D artists, those kind of things. But I will be interested to see if we will be in better shape with software and applications that can really use those cores.
Yeah, the one thing that interested me about the Raptor Lake showing off is they said up to double-digit performance increase. And considering that there's so many more cores in that chip, that made me go, I wonder if they're sandbagging it or if they're just talking about IPC or what, because I would expect there to be a solid, at least in some applications, double-digit performance increase because there are 2 more efficiency cores and 8 more efficiency cores and 2 more performance cores. So we'll have to see.
Yeah, I don't know. I would think it's just because they don't. I was really shocked though. I mean, in that slide earlier, you saw them. There was a screenshot of Cinebench, right? Mm-hmm. Was that Cinebench? I swear to God, like what? I need to make sure because I was kind of surprised. Let's see if that's. Dang it! Is it really Cinebench? Because Intel, clearly has been saying you don't need Cinebench, so. Oh no! Wait, that's not here. I guess that's in the other slide.
But yeah, if you missed all the nitty-gritty details while Gordon's looking that up, Mark did a couple of pieces about the CPU roadmap when it was announced last week or earlier this week. Last week, go check them out. Good stuff.
Oh no, sorry, it's actually Blender. Well, that's okay. I'm so used to the different scenes. That's actually the Blender BMW load, but that's for the next. It's actually part of the next topic, the Intel P and U series chips.
Yeah. So other Intel news, but these are things that are actually coming out soon, right? What's going on with the PU series?
Yeah, no, it's the P and U series, P and U, not PU series, Adam. This is basically Intel. Hey, we drop. Alder Lake H, which is your classic sort of discrete graphics gaming laptop, content creation, big and powerful. The P class is aimed at more normal people, frankly. Most people that don't play games don't really need to pay for discrete graphics, pay for the weight, pay for the cost. So these are aimed at sort of like Dell XPS 13 Plus is a good example, Spectre 13, all kinds of stuff like that. What would have once probably gone into a MacBook Pro, probably. So they have these P-core, 14-core, again, basically, 6 performance cores and 8 efficiency cores. And they're pushing it into lower power envelopes, into thinner, lighter laptops. And they finally took the lid off of that, and actually the first one we're going to start off with is very similar to what we saw with Alder Lake H, which is looking at multi-threaded performance. They looked at relative performance over SoC power, basically sort of performance you're getting versus how much. So if you're really, really pushing it hard, how much more performance do you get out of it? And I kind of wondered if there was an error with this. Is this up on the?
Yep.
Initially, I was like, what is going on here? Because this doesn't make any sense to me. Because it's like, what's up with the line for Ryzen 7 5800U and M1? Because it's like...
They're not the same.
Am I missing? Yeah. I was like, why? How come the line isn't any longer? And basically, I realized later looking at this is because Intel is throwing M1 and Ryzen 7 5800U some shade because they're saying it has a very narrow performance band, right? Mm-hmm. We give you, we're maybe looking at their little lines. So the 1265U and the 1280p. So like the 1265U, they're saying, hey, yeah, at very low power, M1 kind of outperforms us a little bit. And it was in 1195, as M1 actually kind of outperforms 1195 G7 Tiger Lake a little bit. But you get on it, and if you are doing something that really needs the performance and you're going to crank up the wattage, look at that power band. So we can give you pretty close to M1, which is an awesome chip, performance for the U part at very low wattage, right? 10 watts. Mm-hmm. But you get up to 25 watts, and we are just giving you 140% for the U part. M1 just doesn't have the power band, and we're sort of seeing that already. You saw that with the iMac Pro, or the iMac, right? So the ARM based M1 based iMac I was really disappointed in the iMac that basically it was like an M1 laptop in performance. You didn't really get much more performance out of it. I understand it's a different kind of device. It's not like the iMac Pro, but it kind of felt like they really couldn't really push the performance when they push up the power. And then same thing, they're saying like, look at the 5800U. You're looking at maybe, they are their 1265U is outperforming the 5800U. Although 5800U will outperform it at 15 watts, but you get up to 25 watts and we're giving you more performance. And when you're looking at, the 1280p, which is the 14 core version with higher TDPs, they are really kind of like all over Ryzen and M1. So 70% faster. That's what the chart would say.
Well, real quick before we move on, I got to ask, what's up with this naming scheme? Why are they only 4 digits as opposed to 5 on the H parts and on the desktop parts? 1280p. I'm waiting for 1920p, but
Yeah, no, that is, and I think that's because look at the previous Tiger Lake UP3, which is 1195 G7, 4-digit code. They actually did that with Ice Lake and Tiger Lake, where they went to 4 digits. But the weird thing is they did their Comet Lake parts with, wasn't it? That was a 5 digits, like 107510U or something like that. Yeah. So I think they've just simply decided we're going to make our low power, ultra portable CPUs 4 digits, and sort of more powerful CPUs 5 digits. And I think it kind of gives them a little bit of wiggle room, because with 5 digits, you can sort of play with the model numbers to give you a feeling for where it performs. So maybe where that band is going to be, 11980 HK, 12900 HK, and then you sort of have 11900, and I don't know. It doesn't make any sense.
It's just weird.
If you look back at the previous, like in the application performance chart, they have the 1195 G7. The last 2 generations of these mainstream ones, they had those G signifiers at the end because they were really focusing on the Z integrated graphics, XE integrated graphics. So that G7, G5 like signified graphics. It looks like they're getting rid of that, which is both good and bad, I guess. But I think it's good from a branding scheme. But I think it's worth pointing out that P didn't even exist before. This is a whole new lineup. They used to be U, it used to be H, they used to be Y. They just rolled out P because they used to allow laptop makers to push some of the U chips up to 28 watts, but nobody ever would. So they basically rolled out these new P class ones to say, hey, these are, high performance, but for mainstream laptops. So that's where the P comes from.
And also
good info to have because it's brand new.
Yeah, no, and it is definitely especially for consumers, sort of, this is where a lot of people buy is the U class parts. And most people are not buying H unless they're sort of need a little more power. So yeah, P makes sense. If we look at slide B here, Adam,
okay,
this is basically a block map of a 12th gen P series part. Essentially, you lose the discrete. You're going to lose the discrete graphics, so you don't need lanes. You have 2 Gen 4 lanes, 2 4-lane Gen 4 lanes for storage. You get 4 Thunderbolt. You have LP4, LP5, DDR4, and DDR5 support. And it actually looks mostly similar to what you're sort of seeing out of Alder Lake H.
Yep. The thing that was interesting to me, being the graphics geek, is the fact that it does have those 2x4 PCIe Gen 4 lanes. Because Dan, who was on the show before, said that he told Mark the vast majority of P systems will be running integrated graphics, but they do expect there to be some with discrete GPUs. So that means those discrete GPUs will be going just through a by4 PCIe 4 connection, which at first blush you're like, isn't that what people are just yelling at the Radeon RX 6500 XT for? But for the class of GPUs that would go into this sort of laptop, it should be totally fine. It should work out just fine for the few laptops that do ship with discrete graphics.
Yeah, and again, these are very, very light laptops, so they're not putting 3080 Ti's into them.
No,
It'd be what, like like an MX 550 or sort of a
3050 or something that tops.
3050 or an ARC or a 6500 XT, because that's got 4 lanes. And it is Gen 4, so you're basically getting, the equivalent of 8 lanes of Gen 3. There's plenty of bandwidth for these lower end parts.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder how many OEMs are going to do it though, but it's interesting because I know a lot of, especially for different markets, they will put in discrete graphics for Europeans, especially Germans and Asia. Discrete graphics in China is a big deal. So a lot of times they'll just put in discrete graphics because people want to see it has discrete graphics, either Radeon or GeForce in there. So I kind of wonder if that's sort of a good out for them.
Yeah. Yeah, they did say it'll be less common, so don't expect to see many of them, but don't sweat it if you do.
Yeah, and again, for a 3 pound, 3-ish pound laptop, you're only going to get one M.2 anyway, so they can repurpose that other one. So that's pretty handy.
Yeah,
Nice.
Good looking stuff.
They actually did show off some performance comparisons. They obviously don't have Ryzen. Don't ask this. They don't have Ryzen 6000 parts in this comparison because they don't have them, basically. I mean, that's kind of the way it works. I don't know, for people who want to ask this, if you're going to go to YouTube comments, you're saying Intel's not comparing it to Ryzen 6000 parts. It's because, by the way, they don't ship each other their unreleased product yet. So that's the reason why you're not seeing it. But
yep. And those only just came out last week and in very limited availability, I think, right? Ryzen 6000.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen any U benchmarks yet for Ryzen 7 6000. But obviously they would not have it because there is a process you have to go through getting the lawyers and everybody to approve it. There's a lot of overhead in getting it approved. But you're not going to see it yet, but I do have my thoughts on that. But so on this one, so the next slide, see here, Adam.
Yep.
Basically web browsing. So they're showing a 1280p about 17% faster than an 1195 G7, which is actually a little bit faster than a 5800U. That's in WebExpert 4. That is made by Principal Technologies. And before you go to all start contorting your face saying Principal Technologies, I will say WebExpert 3 Ryzen was faster than Tiger Lake in this generally. So they're basically kind of even. And this sort of matches what we're seeing with Alder Lake, is generally with web browsing, that kind of light duty stuff. Alder Lake does pretty well. 17%, slightly snappier, right? I mean, there's definitely, I don't know how much you can really feel, but definitely a little snappier. And then the next one's interesting because this is Puget Bench for Photoshop. That is generally pretty single-threaded, very lightly threaded. And they're saying 30% faster than 1195 G7, which is again, quad-core Tiger Lake UP3 part, which is slightly faster than a 5800U. I don't have current numbers for 5800U, but that's about right. Part of that is Puget Bench is, again, very lightly threaded, so the chip that's going to run at higher clocks is going to have an advantage. And then the other thing that Intel gets out of there is they have worked very closely with Adobe for many, many years, just like Apple and NVIDIA have. And there are some filters that simply run better on Intel hardware. And I've seen that directly. And in fact, I know one of the filters that is in Puget Bench simply runs better on Intel hardware because, hey, by the way, they threw developer resources at Adobe, and you see it here. So, and interestingly, you look at Photoshop. M1 Pro is actually slower than this Core i7 1280p. That's it.
That's interesting.
Yeah, no, and again, that's I don't know how much because they're comparing it to 1195 G7, but if they are saying 1280p without discrete graphics, although I guess you could say Pro isn't really discrete graphics. If it's going to be faster than the M1 Pro, I guess then the Apple crowd will say, "Oh, performance per watt." that will be the immediate Twitter response. Performance per watt scream, I think. So, I mean, that's looking pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next one is looking at the 1280p with 14 cores in a rendering comparison, which is very interesting. Oh wait, okay. So they are actually. So this is using Blender because remember, Intel does not believe in Cinebench because that's not what people do all day. No one uses Cinebench all day, but apparently we're all using Blender. So this is a 1280p with 14 cores versus the 8-core Ryzen 7 5800U, and they're saying 50% less time than 1195 G7, which is a quad core. So clearly more cores better. I will say though that one number, look right next to that orange line, that Ryzen 7 5800U is right there. 8 cores versus 14 cores, and they are right there. I gotta go and you're gonna go well, if AMD's really pushing 28 watts with the Ryzen 7 6800U, we might have a real ball game there. We may have a real ball game there, which I think is good for everybody.
For all the people who are doing Blender runs.
Yeah.
On their thin and light.
Although this is the BMW workload, which is fairly lightweight. I kind of wonder if you're throwing something a little harder at it. And Blender is kind of weird because some things, and Steve at Gamers Nexus has done this. There's some things that are just you don't get the same results based on how the frame is set up. So, but this is again looking pretty good.
Quick, we got a $10 super chat from friend of the show, VC Jester. Thank you so much. In reference to these part numbers, he said, I have to say the first digits of my social security number just to recall the last 4 numbers. So I commend you for keeping all of these model numbers straight in your head, Gordon. So
yeah, it takes a while too, really. You know who I highly recommend, if you don't know about this person, Lisa Gade, you should go look at a Lisa Gade video. She does laptop reviews. She has a mind of it's an iron trap. Because clearly there's no breaks in the video, and she'll man, she's got her memory is how can you remember CPU model, GPU model, clock speeds, M.2 model, every single specification she can commit to memory, and I don't know how many takes that takes, but I just think she's that is just you just almost have to clap because when you're trying to remember every single model, Lisa Gade is amazing.
She's awesome. Also, Dr. Ian Cuttress says so Puget chose the Intel optimizer workloads. Isn't this the Sysmark problem all over again for Intel to then choose Puget?
That's what I was going to say. I know that Blender definitely has some Intel optimizations in there.
Yeah, I know what people are going to say because they're going to go and for people who don't know the history, you had Babco. It was an industry association, OEMs, chip makers. They were all in this. They decided on a standard, really incredible, complicated, valuable way to measure computer performance. Very realistic, looking at reaction times, not just simply going into Word. And at the time, the office work would go into work and type as fast as you can. Well, I can't type at 5,000 words a second. That's not a realistic use. Sysmark was amazing because of kind of what it would give you. It would only measure the response. So you do something, it measures only response. Awesome stuff. There was some kind of tizzy that happened between AMD and Intel over it. They said, you know what, you're making this test unfair to us. We're walking away. They took their ball, they walked away, and then so did NVIDIA. And NVIDIA never really said why they left too, but NVIDIA left. Apple had been a part of it, but they eventually also left. And it's sort of, at that time, I think everybody just stopped using Sysmark, even though, again, it was based on real applications. And the method was cool, but I think the argument was everybody's always picking these workloads that favor Intel CPUs. I don't know what happened. I will say that Babco's always said, no, it's fair. Puget Bench is made by a workstation maker. They sell computers. They have developed this stuff on their own, looking at things. They look at things people do, some of their customers do, and they basically have created these workloads for them. Photoshop is a very popular application. By the way, if you don't have Photoshop on your platform, you don't have a platform. You have a Commodore 64. Mm-hmm. So I know that people go, well, it's political now because now Photoshop is unfair to my company that I like, and it favors this other company because they put money into making it faster on them. If I'm buying as a consumer and the only thing I care about is getting better performance in Photoshop, do I care about your little petty squabbles over it? Or do I only care about what gets me more performance? If a vendor is putting money into another vendor to make their application faster on their hardware, and the only thing I care about that hardware is getting more performance, that's fine. If I don't like fairness and all these kind of other stuff, and I like to argue about things on YouTube and Reddit, then that's full. You can make that decision, but there are some consumers that will say the only thing I care about is faster Photoshop. So the short answer to that is it just depends on whether you care or not. Photoshop, want faster Photoshop or want to support, small independent whatevers. So,
well, also, oh crap, where did I put it? But Ian points out, well, doesn't Puget mostly sell Intel-based systems? And I went over to the store. Let me put up. This is I just. When you go to the main navigation, you click on products. It actually has the AMD systems listed before the Intel systems, which is interesting because I don't know what they sell, like how much of each they sell, but honestly, I would have thought they would have put the Intel stuff beforehand, but yeah.
Yeah, and they sell both, and I think Intel has been the big player with Xeon for a long time. I think yes. You're going to say like, well, the vendor wants to sell the product, but looking at all the tests that Puget Bench does, the involvement in the community to make these tests public for people to use, and then they will do this test. They'll run something. I'm like, wow, look at this. We are running this on Threadripper, and if you are doing this application, you need that core density. Buy this Threadripper because ultimately for system vendors, they just want to sell you product. Yeah, one may make more money or whatever, but the fact that they actually are ginning up these tests to do the testing and then say, if you do this in this test, this is faster, buy this hardware, and then they sell it to you, I think that's fine. I know that there's always some feeling like, well, vendors want to sell the product that gives them better margin. I think it's definitely a little bit for a place like Puget Bench.
Well, I think the numbers are a little bit stale at this point. But last summer in July, Puget put out a post about the state of their CPU sales, and they said that AMD actually accounts for 60% of their sales. So the majority of their sales are from AMD.
Okay, huh?
Yeah.
Dang, I honestly, I'm a little surprised by that personally, but I mean,
I wouldn't. Between Ryzen 5000 and Threadripper, they were just firing on all cylinders, right?
True,
I mean, Intel still hasn't really come out with a response for Threadripper, but it's probably not a big market for them, so.
Ian does follow up and say, but Gordon, that's not the argument. There are 500 tools to use in Adobe, and Puget might use the 10 with the best Intel speedups.
And I agree with you there, Ian, because that is the limitation of, especially when you're using sprawling suites like Photoshop and Premiere. And as a reviewer, I also like when I do a review, we just did Alder Lake H and I did just a Ryzen as well. And I do Procyon, which is UL, and I also do Puget Bench. And I think that's a problem is a lot of people will look at the results. This is great. This is a great topic for another day, but I think if you are, if you see the Puget Bench number, I see this 1,100 or, oh my God, the M1 Max is like 1,500. That does not really tell you the whole story. Same thing, right? Because Puget Bench, it basically, and again, hey, by the way, Best Buds, Apple, and Adobe are Best Buds too. So they get a huge pickup from the encoder, right? So they have just awesome optimizing encoders in Adobe products, which shows up in Puget Bench for Premiere. When you actually, so you think, wow, they just kicked the crap out of NVIDIA GPUs. Even in 3080 Ti, they get smoked by M1 Max. You actually look at the actual result for the GPU in Puget Bench. Not really, because there's GPU accelerated filters in the applications that actually 3080 Ti is faster than M1 Max, right? So,
I mean, we say this all the time, right? It really depends on what you do.
Yeah,
it's hard. How do you standardize the testing to show that? Anyway, but we got a $10 super chat from Kenton Morton. Thanks so much. Said it amazes me how people are all caught up with the benchmarks, but majority can't tell the difference and only watch YouTube, browse the web, and play Candy Crush. Good point.
Yeah, no, it is, and that crowd needs to realize, like, just buy, again, if you're buying a laptop, buy the one that's got the best screen, keyboard, and trackpad for you. then I mean, does it really matter if that's all you're doing? All you're doing, of course. Last one, we'll do the Iris. Actually, those are the product stack, but we'll do the Iris Xe graphics.
Cool.
1080p. So they're basically showing that, you know, hey, 1080p gaming with Iris Xe in these new 12th gen parts, pretty decent. Like, look, you're looking at 115 frames a second League of Legends, 81 in Rocket League. This is high. Counter-Strike 62. It's very playable.
Yeah, that's good. That's a big difference in what integrated graphics used to be.
Yeah, and I would say it's probably going to be very similar to what you're seeing with the Tiger Lake G7 parts, because it's basically the same EUs. Although I guess maybe they'll get a pickup depending on the RAM, so maybe they get a little more bandwidth out of this depending on what's being used. But
Wait, so this is 1080p gameplay on a 1280p?
on a, yeah, 1080p on a 1280p. Left side of that chart, those bars are medium settings. Right side is high settings, and you know you're looking at very decent gaming. You know, I personally, for me, I would think the part for my demands, I would say probably 1080 low is probably what I'd play, because I generally like a little more higher frame rates, but depends on the game.
And you got to remember that these are mainstream laptops, so probably most of the things you'll find this in have 60 hertz screens.
Yeah, and then also the thing that kind of is amazing here is you're looking at League of Legends 115, 81 frames a second, Rocket League, Dota 2 72 frames a second, Counter-Strike 62. That's probably like 60% of all gaming already
On
right?
Steam, yeah.
On game period, like
period,
the entire
yeah.
world, right? And I would say if you play Valorant,
And Grand Theft Auto, I mean, really. Oh, no, dude, Grand Theft Auto is still huge. Huge.
I don't
huge.
think so.
Oh,
No,
yes.
no,
Yes,
no.
go to the Steam charts right now. Here, I'll bring it up for
Grand
you.
Theft Auto is probably not even top 5.
What?
If
There's
No.
oh no, it is.
Dude,
It
yeah,
is.
you
There's
are-
a reason I had it in my GPU suite up until
Really? 'Cause
basically
I-
when Red Dead Redemption came out.
Like
Yeah.
I think because you know and it's funny because I will often see people go like, "Hey, we looked at this graphics card with 40 games," and sometimes I think like, "There's 40,000 games in the Steam library, right?" I'm not sure how as a percentage from going from say 15 games to 40 really changes it, but I would say like top 10 is probably the most valuable metric out of Steam.
Yeah,
games, right?
Yeah.
Grand Theft Auto is in the top 10 of concurrent right now, but also top 10 of the peak today. So, yeah.
So what is it?
122,000
No, I mean, but, like
players.
top
peak today.
5.
What is it for today? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Number 7, but also Lost Ark is a brand new one. So, yeah.
I'm just saying not top 5. I would say that League of Legends, Rocket League, Dota, and Counter-Strike are. And I'm saying that because people who generally play, you know, esports games, lower ambition games, they tend to skew to be younger. And most parents don't let their kids play Grand Theft Auto 5. I'm just saying that. Hey, Minecraft, sure.
Surprised.
Minecraft, even Counter-Strike is like, that seems like a socially like acceptable norm versus like Grand Theft Auto, you know? Because at least you're playing counter-terrorists.
Actually, you know, and maybe this isn't where people are playing Rocket League, but Rocket League's peak today is only 43,000 compared to 122,000 of Grand Theft Auto 5. So
Yeah, because
they're in like the top 20.
Adam, it's because it's 11:38 and everybody is in school right now. They're on juice boxes. Like, give it 5 hours and be like,
I'm
the
just
entire world
saying.
will turn
Just
on.
saying.
It's because Rocket League Epic pretty much moved it over to Steam, and so this is all who's left on Steam playing it.
Oh, got it.
I just think it's a juice
but
box
yeah,
crowd. I think it's a juice box crowd. Juice box
I
crowd is not
dis-
playing GTA.
I disagree.
Yeah.
But even if, I mean, Juicebox Crowd isn't playing Counter-Strike either.
Oh yeah, they are.
But
No, you know
but
what they're
yeah,
playing
if
is
you look
Valorant.
at this top 10, 15 list, like most of those games are in that. So that's super cool that you can play most of the top 15 most played games on integrated graphics on this thing.
Okay, we're just gonna do one of these, which is basically the product stack.
Oops.
You get your 1280p, 1270. It's basically pretty decent. Look at that.
You talking about chart E or?
Yeah, chart E. Basically, we're looking at 14 cores for the i7, and then sort of like you lose 2 performance cores. But still, those I'm a little bummed that you're not getting the full graphics stack with the i5 version, but what are you gonna do? Because Tiger Lake, you got that G7 at i5, right? So
Yep.
that's a bit of a bummer.
ADE uses nothing to sneeze at, though, I think.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's not bad. That might actually be like a good sort of like that i5 1250p might be really an awesome screamer deal. And you're still looking at 12 cores. Yeah.
If they did that 1080p gameplay on the 1280p, just be aware that the numbers will be a little bit lower if you have an i5.
Yeah. And of course, it all depends on the laptop because one with better cooling is going to perform better.
Laptops are complicated, man.
Very complicated. We'll skip the U parts. I'm still not sure where the U parts go personally, but you know, I guess for everybody else who doesn't need all the core count.
But we haven't had any of these laptops in yet, so obviously if we get some in, we'll do some video around, right?
Yeah, I'm excited. I think it'll be a battle. From seeing what I saw of Ryzen 6000, I think it's going to be a real battle. And even Intel's own numbers seem to make it seem like it might be closer than I expected. But I think what I'm very interested in is also, battery performance, which gets really messy in itself. But everybody believes Alder Lake is simply not power efficient at all. So we'll have to see when we actually get the laptops.
Yeah, it's going to be cool with all these actually being on the streets. It looks like by the end of next month. So we'll be able to compare head to head.
Yep.
Nice. Speaking of going head to head, Steve at Gamers Nexus went head to head with Newegg. What happened here, Gordon? It's a long story.
I'm going to try to summarize it after watching many, many hours of video. Basically, you're looking
good video.
Great video. Go check it out, Steve Gamers Nexus. Awesome content. He basically bought a motherboard from Newegg last year. It was for Rocket Lake, Comet Lake 10th gen, 11th gen board. Wasn't 1700. Ended up like, I'm not going to use this thing. Got the box. Said I'm going to return it. Put the label on the box. Send it back to Newegg. And he never even opened the outer box or the inside box. Sent it back to Newegg. Newegg says, "Hey, we're rejecting this because it's been damaged goods." He's like, "What? I never even opened the box up." He went through this whole thing with them basically saying, I never opened the box up. And they're like, "Yeah, we don't believe you. Tough lucks." There's also thermal pate on there. I don't want to say he doesn't understand. Thermal pate is what it is. He says it's thermal pate. It's actually pate is how it's pronounced. Thermal pate is on the board. He got into a big fight with them. And then eventually trying to get it, go back and forth. He basically got screwed by them because they were going to say, "We're not going to give you your $500 back because you damaged this board." And then he finally had to go like, "What's up with this?" And then he ended up going on Twitter. And then, of course, by the way, hey, if there's one person you do not want to F with, it is Steve from Gamers Nexus.
Yeah.
And they F with the wrong nerd. And, of course, it blew up. And then it turned out he got the board back from them. It had a bunch of bent pins on it. It had the thermal pate on there. They gave him his money back because clearly they wanted to go away because they knew the rolling storm of bad news was coming. He got his money back. He got the board. But, Steve being Steve, he's like, "What's up with this?" He ended up talking to Gigabyte and actually...
Well, no, you're missing a step here.
Is there a step?
So when Newegg sent the board back, it still had an RMA sticker on there.
Yes. That
it had sent to Gigabyte because it knew there were messed up pins in the motherboard. And Gigabyte's like, "Yeah, we would," they sent it back. Newegg decided not to have it repaired. Continue. So that's an important step. There's an actual sticker on the motherboard, a big sticker that's an RMA thing to Gigabyte.
And it was and Steve checks it out, and the motherboard had been sent to Gigabyte to get an estimate on a repair. Gigabyte says, "We can fix it for $100. He called them up to find out, "Yeah, we can fix it for $100. Newegg says, "No, send us the board back." They get the board back. Clearly damaged board. Clearly has a big ass sticker saying damaged board. And somebody sold that to Steve at Gamers Nexus and then tried to make him pay for basically that motherboard. And you can imagine that train of bad news just kept going. He finally, yesterday or Monday, he released a video going to to Newegg, sitting down with some execs and brass at Newegg, talk about the whole situation. He also had with him a binder of like, I don't know, maybe 100 people had very bad RMA experiences with Newegg. He said that was like a quarter of the emails he received from people who had poor RMA experiences with Newegg. Talk with him, very reasonable talk. I encourage you to watch it and watch the whole thing. Don't just try to like fast forward through it, because you should hear everything they have to say. In the end, Newegg basically said, we're going to have we've released an email account. If you have problems with RMAs, please email this account. Even if you're one of the 400 some odd people who have had a problem that had emailed Steve, please email us. We've clearly, in corporate speak, they basically said, we screwed up. We know we screwed up. Here's how we're going to fix it. And I think that's where we are today. And, it was clearly a PR disaster, right? I mean, I don't know what else you could say.
Just the final notes on the process before we dig into it more. Newegg, after Steve started talking about this, said, hey, we'll start taking bent pins on motherboards and CPUs, open box, no questions asked. And as part of this video, Steve was saying, Steve did a great job in that video. He didn't make it about him and his issue. He made it about the big collective issue. He did excellent journalism there. And he says, that's not good enough. You buy any open box thing. This is, you get it messed up. We just saw how catastrophically bad, what a failure your return process can be. Like other people, we've got hundreds of reports doing this. Why does this not exist to every, open box item? So Newegg has since expanded it to every open box item. And they have that return thing, so you can go get that checked out if you are an affected customer. But like, this is bad. Like that thing, if they had at any point simply said, hey, this guy says he didn't open the box, let's open the box. And you see the motherboard box was ripped out the side. It wasn't even open properly.
Yeah.
And it had that big thing on the top of it, the RMA sticker. Like, boxes can get put in the wrong place. Hopefully you have processes so that doesn't happen. But I could see, something accidentally getting sent out as an open box item. But then when they say, hey, I'm trying to return this, I didn't damage this, someone should open that box and be like, oh, there's a gigantic sticker on here saying we tried to send it to Gigabyte 6 months ago.
Right.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. And I think the reason why, Steve got so radioactive about it, I think fairly is, besides the fact that it's him and he said, look, I can, to me, it's not the end of the world, but you can imagine that experience happening to a regular person where you're sent, bad product and they don't want to give you the money back for it. And it's an injustice, right? And it's very much an injustice to that person who did it. And that's why I think he rightfully got like all up in their business over it, because it just makes you wonder what the hell's going on, right? So
yeah, and to be absolutely fair and true and honest, like Newegg has a reputation for crap quality assurance, like not quality assurance, but returns, customer service. Like a lot of people will only buy from Newegg if they have to, because they've had bad customer service experiences. And this just really drives that home in the worst way possible for Newegg. Hopefully these changes stick. Hopefully, all these open box changes happen. Hopefully they really do like reflect and be like, hey man, we can't be trying to stiff people out of $500. Like that's ridiculous. So hopefully there's going to be a silver lining to all this, but yeah, just a fiasco.
Well, I think the silver lining is that, yeah, clearly, and anybody who's worked in corporate America will tell you things don't get fixed until things get really, really bad, right? So clearly the company knows like, yeah, we got a mess on our hands. So, and again, I will say, if the best time to buy a Jack in the Box taco is after they just poisoned a whole bunch of people with those tacos, because you can guarantee that like we fixed our problem, because like, killing people with our monster tacos is not good. You're going to bet that any open box item that you're going to buy from Newegg is going to be like, yeah, we're going to handle these with baby gloves. But clearly most corporations, they don't fix anything until like it blows up in their face, because that's I mean, try that with any company where like, oh yeah, no, nothing ever gets fixed until it blows up. So that's exactly what happened right here.
Wait, so but there are a lot of people, you know, in the chat saying like, oh, I should switch to Amazon, or hey, you know, I should boycott Newegg. You're saying that you think this is probably the best time to work with them because they're probably watching it.
Well,
it's before you go on, it's worth pointing out that they also just updated that return policy to include both open box and new items. So if you run into an issue with anything, they have that special direct line to return issues.
Yeah, and I think the one thing that is very easy to get on the anger train on and just kind of like and be angry about stuff is that you should also go like, look, yeah, it sucks that it took stepping on, you know, one of the most popular YouTubers for this to happen, but they at least are addressing it, right? So you have to admit that okay, you took care of it. I'll give you another chance. I think it's really would be wrong to like, well, you took care of the problem. I'm still going to boycott you because you never should have done this in the first place, which I think is the wrong way to do it. I think if they are at least doing the right thing, yeah, they should have done it in the first place, water under the bridge, but now you give them their chance, right? It's not a life conviction, not forever. So I think you got to give them the chance because they have at least tried to fix it. We don't know how long it's going to stick or what the fixes are, but I think you gotta at least give them a chance now. Again, I ate Monster Tacos right after they poisoned those people because, you know, hey, I know it's a good.
Yeah. Two thoughts on that is one, I watched that whole video. Like you said, everyone should. It was a really interesting video. I think a lot of it was corporate speak from some of the Newegg guys, but there's a guy sitting right to Steve's right. I don't remember his name, but he kept coming back trying to summarize, hey, here's how we messed up. Here's how we're going to fix it, like in normal plain language terms. And I think that dude at least really gets it. So hopefully he has a strong hand in this. But I kind of agree with Gordon. One, I always think you should vote with your dollars. So if you're pissed by this, as you should be, because, hey, they're trying to screw somebody out of $500 in a very not intentional necessarily, but catastrophic manner. Like, don't support that if you don't feel up to it. But like the fact that they are opening that special line open to any issues whatsoever, not just open box. Like, I have a feeling in Steve's video, he said, you know, maybe sit on the sideline, see what happens in 6 months, 12 months or whatever. I wouldn't be surprised if these next 6 months to 12 months are the best time to buy something, because any issues you have, they're going to take care of you, would be my guess after all this. And I'm glad that it's happening because, like I said, like, nerds talk about it. Like, Newegg's where you go if you have to, if you can't find it somewhere else, because their customer service has been that bad. Mm-hmm. Like, Newegg's customer service is bad. And if it gets good enough, it'll end up being a win for everybody, I think. I'm glad Steve... it sucks that Steve walked into this, but I'm glad that Steve walked into this. Yeah,
and can we show those couple charts, Adam?
Yeah, which one do you want to start with?
Why don't we do market cap?
Okay. So this is in reference to what?
So, you know, getting ready for this is like, you know, I haven't really ever looked at these companies because I think from most people, they go like, well, Newegg, their website, you know, looks exactly the same as Amazon. They are obviously not a, oh, dang it. I can't find it myself now. Well, they're exactly the same, right? You look at the website and you think they're the same, and they are not. Especially when you look at size, because I went and I looked at the market cap. This is basically Newegg is a public company. Amazon is a public company. So is Best Buy. This is Micro Center, which is, again, a very popular retailer. And this is the value of the company based on shares. Micro Center is actually a private company, and this is just kind of like some dude posted somewhere and their estimated value. I'm going to guess a lot of that is based on the real estate because they have a lot of stores. That real estate is worth a ton of money. But look at this, the market cap of Newegg. And I know people go like, well, Newegg's $1 billion company. Yeah, they are a $2.1 billion company. Their primary competitor, the one that they go every day to war with, every day, and they have been at war every day for years and years and years, is Amazon.com. Amazon is a $1.55 trillion company, right? Mm-hmm. So... and the next thing is revenue. Oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I'll go after you're done.
So the next one is looking at revenue.
Okay.
So this is, again, just, the rough estimates based on my, 2-second search of the internet. Newegg's revenue, I think, $540 million. Pretty decent. Amazon, $386 billion, I believe, or something like that. So they are a magnitude bigger than Newegg. Newegg has maybe 2,000 employees. Amazon has 1.6 million employees. They have their own trucks. They have their own drones. And Newegg is every day going to war with Amazon, trying to beat Amazon. So I think that is valuable perspective that you need to consider as people still want to flame Newegg and stay on their, I'm never going to buy from Newegg thing. It's your money. Please do with it what you want, but I just want you to realize that the scale between Newegg and Amazon is not even close. So you need to think about that. And Newegg is at war with Amazon, and that's not a fun war to be on. So you need to think about that as well while you form your opinion.
It's kind of like the same thing of sure, there's a lot of people angry at Intel and a lot of the practices, but you actually want competition. You want them to do good things because you need competition. We don't want just Amazon to rule everything. We want Newegg to get better,
right?
And have things change so that we can use them and have them in different standings compared to the other marketplaces too.
Yeah.
And Steve says that in his video. He's like, part of the reason we're doing this, one, is because, they tried to screw us. People getting screwed. People should know about it. But two, they want healthy competition. Like, we don't want to just everyone be buying from Amazon whenever you need a CLC. That would suck. That being said, I think this is all very good perspective to point out. I'm glad that you did. But to me, in my perspective, at the bottom line is any company, but especially a billion-dollar company that is going to sell me something for several $100s should not try to shaft me when they send me a broken part.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, and the thing is, nothing, in no way ever does that justify. Could you imagine that if that wasn't Steve and it was just a regular nerd?
I mean, there's plenty of them.
Yeah, there's plenty of them, right? He got like hundreds of emails, and you're just like, I'm just stuck with this? Like, what? Like
and friend of the show Kyle from Hard OCP TV is in the chat. He's saying on the forums there was stuff dating back 10 years or so that
and again
problems.
If I got burned by a company, I can tell you damn well I'm never going back to. I don't care what you're doing, and again that is fine because if you got burned out of a company by, you got legitimately you lost money to get a bad product, you're never going to buy from that company, and that is well justified. But again, I just want to have some perspective there that the war that they are fighting in, they don't. I buy from Amazon all the time. I love, and buying refurbs. I love buying open box refurb items or open box. You're not a refurb. I love buying open box items from Amazon because it's like, it'll say like 1-inch damage to product. It's like, that sounds pretty bad. Like, you think there's a gouge? I'm like, well, I'm taking that roll because it's 30% off. Bought it? Like, no. Like, where is it? Like, it looks like there's no damage. It's weird because it almost feels like Newegg, like RMA department's like, well, it's got some pins that aren't bent. Somebody could use this. Let's go ahead and sell it. But you go to Amazon, I bought a thermal imager this way. It's like, I don't know, mark it off 50%. Say it's heavily damaged and somebody like basically blew their nose on it. Okay, it looks brand new. I don't care. It's Jeff Bezos' money. Do it. It's sort of like this weird opposite because like you buy open box items from Amazon, they don't care. Like, take that, Jeff Bezos, your space rocket. And then at Newegg's like,
Yeah.
Well, speaking of which, another good video. Somebody points out, I guess. God, I can't remember his name, but UF Tech, UFD Tech. He's got a good video. I haven't watched that, but I also watched Paul's video as somebody who used to work at Newegg in that kind of role. He actually had a really good video of like how things should have done and or how things at least were done back when he was there. So that was very interesting too.
I don't want to get into it and start flame wars or anything like that, but if you watch UFD Tech's video, there are some valid things worth pointing out in there too, but there are also some ways that he dropped the ball. So I'm just tossing that out there. Take that knowledge and do with it what you will.
Okay.
And I will say, I do recommend Paul's hardware video on this because he worked in the department that did RMAs. He basically got these weird things in. He was just the RMA, and clearly,
no. He was the RMA.
Yeah, he
department.
was.
Like
he
it was him.
Yeah, that was him, right? Yeah, you're right. It just, I guess that kind of shows you the scale that Newegg is. It has been at, and I've actually walked through Newegg's warehouse, and it was impressive. It looked like, it's a gigantic warehouse, and like, wow, this is like. And that was when they were just starting the war with Amazon, right? So, but I think the other thing that is really lost in all this, and we don't know, and I would love to know from Newegg is, so Steve is completely innocent here. He got a damaged board that they tried to sell him as good, and then they didn't want to give him money as. He sent that board back to Amazon, to Newegg, and they said, well, hey, it's damaged, although I don't know how they could miss that sticker they'd put on there, right? But that's kind of weird. But I kind of think like somebody damaged that board. And in the interview that Steve did with the Newegg execs, they're like, we did not damage that board originally. So clearly the board was damaged before it was sent to Steve, right? Mm-hmm. So and Steve never says how that happened. He doesn't know, obviously, because that happened before. What did it happen at Newegg? I doubt it, because you got to figure if you grab the box off the shelf where the robot does, you put it in a box, you ship it out. You're not going to open it up and screw around with it. My assumption is that box got bought by somebody from Newegg for $500. They ham-fisted the CPU, and I mean, there were like pins bent everywhere. Like you could see it. So they damaged that board. It didn't boot. So they clearly screwed up. And then they sent it back to Newegg, right? And then, of course, somebody bungled it by not going, hey, the original person who destroyed this board is the one that says, hey, you destroyed this board, right? They're sort of the ones that I think are sort of that kicked off this entire war. But that person really took that board that they either intentionally or unintentionally damaged it, and then they just sent it back, right? Oh, I don't need it, or it didn't work. And when they're the ones that damaged it, right? Unless we think that it happened at the Gigabyte factory, but I don't think so. They must have their process down. I just sort of think like somebody damaged that board, sent it back, and then it just sort of kicked this whole thing off.
I think, yeah, I agree. This whole thing should not have happened. Like every step of this is a fundamental failure of customer service. Like it should not have gotten to him in that state, especially with the big sticker on it. But even if it did not have that big sticker on it, there's clearly bent motherboard pins. As part of the open box like review policy before they ship it out to people, they should look and go, oh, hey, that has bent pins. We obviously shouldn't sell that. That didn't happen. And then when he called and complained about it, like they said, hey, we'll take a look at that and give you a call back. When can I call you next or email you next? And then they never even responded and answered him on that. And then all this stuff with the big sticker and all this happening, like this shouldn't have happened. And I just hope that this will finally be the catalyst to make Newegg's customer service not suck, because it flat out has. Everybody knows it for a decade plus.
Yeah. Although, I mean, it is, again, working in corporate America, that's how it works though, right? If you don't get the resources in the department, they only give you the resources when something blows up in their face. Something is blown up in their face, so you got to imagine they're going to fix it now. So,
and it actually makes me semi-worried for Newegg, to be honest. Like, hopefully they learn their lessons, they come back strong, they start doing awesome customer service, and people start buying from more. They're better than ever. That'd be great for everybody in the world, aside from Steve, who's out $500. But like, hardware margins are very small to begin with. Like, retailers and technology makers and stuff don't make as much money as you think they do. Like the AMDs and the Intels and NVIDIAs, they make money, but like at the ground level, the store level, they don't make as much profit margin as you think they do. It's very slim, and eating open box stuff obviously hurts that. And so I think they're going to be very lenient with this now, as they should be, because of all these issues, but that could wind up hurting them pretty hard in the long term too. So I'm real curious to see what this winds up doing for Newegg, because I think it could end in, a redemption story, or it could end in like
Nothing
that made
changed.
it so we're not profitable.
yeah, no, I mean, that would be the worst thing ever, is like sort of, and again, they can only blame themselves because they let the RMA department got into the state where it was, where you burned one of the leading YouTubers on this and it blew up in your face. But Oh God.
Well, speaking of Steve, he's in the chat. He came in right when you made the joke about, oh, it's got some bent pins. Somebody could use this, right? But now he's not out $500. He's out $480 because he gave us $20. So thank you so much, Steve. He said, Gordon, if someone random bought it and damaged it and returned it, the original board, do you think the original person who destroyed the pins recognized it in our video? What were they thinking sitting at home watching this, do you think?
They must have, because you got to look at that. The profile of somebody who buys a $500 motherboard, they're not just like, they're not the add the cheapest board to your cart and go. They're into the whole thing. They're like
they're watching Gamers
they're
Nexus
watching
videos.
like, oh, I bought this because of a Gamers Nexus video. But you're just kind of like, they're like, oh my God, they're never going to cop to it though. I would love if somebody like that would be the best thing ever is the original person who busted up that board. They should go. They've seen it. They should go to Gamers Nexus and say, "Yeah, I did it. I'm sorry." Because I think, to me, that is really also a lesson. Because I see this attitude from a lot of people. I've heard it over the years. I have friends like this. You know what? I really screwed up and I broke this really expensive product, but I'm going to just bring it back to the store and hope they don't notice, right? And that is just morally wrong, I think, because if you break something, you should own up to it. And it's just like the whole overclocking thing, right? Yeah, have fun, overclock stuff. If you need to just kind of like slough this off and take responsibility, and I would this entire mess, this entire fiasco, that would be the end of it. That would be just like, yeah, I'm the one who blew it. And then maybe the lesson should be like, oh, everybody wants to do it because money is hard to come by, but be careful when you're, and return broken product. There's one guy, he or gal, or no, bought a 2080 Ti. It was clearly a GPU swap that somebody had done, and that person probably sucks that somebody bought it out, sent in their junky old card, hope equally should get just as much heat as the last one on us. So
I think that's super morally sucky if you do stuff like that. Newegg needs to be checking this stuff.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way that should happen. Like, flat out, full stop, period. Like, if that happens, someone should get reprimanded or fired. Like, how did they get a 680 Ti when they bought a 2080 Ti?
Well, but it just speaks to, systemic issues because, again, you don't want to blame one person. Like, look, man, I got to process 85 boxes or 800 boxes, and it's just me.
Well, when I say that, I don't necessarily mean the dude processing the RMAs. I mean, like, 2 or 3 steps above him. Like, there should be stuff in place where this does not happen.
Yeah. I mean, but that again, it speaks to the whole thing of like, we know, because I will tell you, we demand, hey, I need stuff all the time in my travels with the corporate America, and like, yeah, we're not going to give it to you. And like, oh, hey, Gordon, how come you're not doing this? Well, because you said no to me when I asked for it 8 times. Oh, no, here's all your, it's like, it's too late now. That ship has sailed, right? And that I think that kind of speaks to somebody making a decision to not properly, give the resources to the department to succeed in that, key area. And then also, again, that gets to what we just saw earlier. Your Newegg is big, yes, but you're basically fighting the largest e-tailer company in the history of human history. And that is just not a fun place to be. So I think, yeah, it's easy to be fun and make fun of Newegg and be angry at them at the same time. That is a tough battle. So maybe we should also just give them a little bit of a break, but I could get it. If I got stuck with the 680 instead of a 2080 Ti, I will dance on your grave, because that's the kind of thing, like, I would be angry forever, and you are rightfully so, but I just think people got to remember it's not you would not predict that Newegg would even be here at this point. frankly, right? Because you're going up against Amazon here. So
True. Yeah. What a story. Wow. Yeah. We'll see. We'll see. I think it's definitely one of those things. I'm sure Steve has plans to continue to follow up on this. We definitely want to follow up on it too. So yeah, and maybe we should get Steve on to chat about it. Steve, if you're watching, let's chat about it.
I broke that board. Okay, I'm admitting it. I did it. It's me.
Dang it. Well,
I was like, I was eating some noodles. I was like, oh, it's my fault. Oh, no.
actually, yeah. If the person who originally broke the board is watching, get with us. Come on the show.
Nobody's going to admit to that. I sent this board back broken, hoping they wouldn't notice, and they didn't. And I ended up screwing Steve, who then, oh God.
Okay. Then yeah. Should we get some questions? We got some good ones.
Sure.
Yeah. All right. If you want to get your questions in now, get them in the chat and at PC World so I can see more easily. If not, if you're watching this later or listening to it later, there's a link to our Discord in the description of everything. So go over there. There's a Full Nerd Questions tab, and yeah, we'll get to him here. So we got a $5 super chat from VC Jester. Thank you so much, friend of the show. Said, in respect to owning up, Gordon, I've watched Aliens more than Alien.
See?
Yeah, see, it's okay. People can own up to it.
I broke that board.
That's a good one.
And that'd be a great T-shirt. There's like a bunch of bent pins. Like a no, that would be.
I like it. We got a 45 more Danish krone from Eek44, friend of the show. Thank you. Said Newegg is now the sunny side up, flat on the pan. So yeah, egg on the face. We got a bunch of other super chats through the episode. So. Real quick breaking news. Steve puts in the chat, Adam will probably fly back out there again in a month or two. We'll schedule more time next time so we can come by the studio if you're there. Yeah, definitely. Please, let's coordinate. Maybe we even make a trip down to LA. We'll see.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Yeah, I need to go to a Micro Center. It's I actually
been too long.
I don't think I've ever been to a Micro Center.
Really?
Have I?
Oh my God! It's like an epic. It's like a nerd mecca.
Been to like a Fry's, obviously, but yeah.
Well, I mean,
rest in peace.
Micro Center kept it real. It feels like over Fry's because Fry's just kind of felt like. I've actually been to cemeteries that like, oh, there's way more life here than at Fry's at the end. So.
Okay, nice. Okay, sorry. Back to yes. Mike Quinton, friend of the show, gave us $45. Thank you. Said, has there been any financial / shareholders fallout from Newegg, and did Micro Center react?
Don't know.
Steve might know that better.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I know people, they look at that, and again, go look at the Gamers Nexus video. It is commendable because to go in for a public company to do an interview with somebody with a hot topic like this is one, you got to give Steve at Gamers Nexus credit for being able to pull it off because of the reputation he has for being a straight shooter, and that is the reason why they did it, because some people just want to come in and burn you. He gave them an honest chance to respond to everything. At the same time, I can tell you the math was also, you know what, let's just ignore it. And it's just better not to, because the high risk of you saying something in a meeting that gets us into a problem with our shareholders is probably way more damage than the damage we're getting from this. So I think you got to give credit to both sides here.
The stock price has been going down all year. So yes, it has gone down over the last month. Ever since Steve started reporting on this, it definitely has gone from $6 to $7 a share down to 5 something. But it's been going down all year.
Yeah.
Nice. Also, Steve says their ticket from SFO to LAX, I don't know, maybe they had a stopover or something, was $47. Wow. Crazy.
I like, sometimes
That's wild.
don't you ever want to go like, can I give you like $5 extra for just a little more fuel? Because I'm like, I'm really like, we got just enough fuels, folks, to get just there. We better not run into any traffic.
Anyway, okay, so Lassie Berg gave us 20 Danish krone. Thank you so much. Said, AI is a mess. Will DirectX ML be the standard? Sorry, caught you when you were drinking.
We'll see. I mean,
Yeah.
Windows stuff tends to be the standard that a lot of people build around, but we'll see. Like Nvidia stuff already has a strong hold for the creative and enterprise crowd, and Intel's obviously doing its own thing. Just gonna have to see. You can never guess with standards.
Yeah, it feels like it's a little too late for it, but maybe it's a long-term play, but we'll see. Yeah, I would definitely. Again, you buy the hardware that fits your needs. So, yeah, hey, DirectX ML is awesome as standard. If it doesn't do jack for you in the applications you use, then you should buy what works for you. Apple, whether that be Apple, Intel, or AMD, or NVIDIA. So,
not a question, but a comment from Ian Washish. Gave us 10 Canadian dollars. We'll take those too. Thank you so much. I'm sad that AMD didn't come out with a 5950X 3D because of the inner die cache added latency, potentially. I personally dedicate a die for a game, and it really helps with the very last remnant stutters.
That's fair. That's fair. I think that's not something that's typical whatsoever. And I think AMD was really just trying to hit like we had Rob and Frank on the show. They're like, yeah, we were looking, the one die, 8 cores is perfect for gaming. Like this is really hyper targeting gaming. So you got to put money where you make money.
yeah, and they can't invest too much in doing this, even regardless of how much TSMC is charging for it. Because Raptor Lake is coming. You've seen Intel's roadmap. It's impressive. They got to move on. They got to get AM5 out. So you can't live in the past too much.
Yep. Another question from NewTech. A friend of the show said, do you think Ryzen on AM5 will bring iGPU to desktop CPUs to be competitive with Meteor Lake's internal GPUs?
Probably. I mean, we'll see, right? Because we don't know. But it feels like clearly AMD and Intel are focused on we're going to give you more performance where it makes sense. So IGP. I mean, the fact that even with Alder Lake, it feels sometimes crazy to think like, why would you waste that die space on the EU for the high end K part, right? Because no one's ever going to use a damn thing. So
I'm the opposite. I think the lack of integrated graphics is like a glaring flaw, but not really for Ryzen. Like that means you have to buy a discrete GPU. And so if you were looking to build a system over the last year or two, like you're not buying Ryzen. And I think it's good to have some sort of IGP at the minimum, so you can, like, if your graphics card dies, you can keep using your computer. So
yeah, I say at least for troubleshooting. Like I said, my nephew, he thought his GPU was Dunzo. It was not, but he has a 3600X, and I wasn't. He's like, oh, I got an HDMI right here on the motherboard, and I'm like, sorry, buddy, it's not going to do anything for you. So yeah, at least for troubleshooting, it is nice to have.
Yeah, I mean, but I thought we were kind of looking forward. I do feel like AMD is going to include graphics more and more, but it depends on. It depends very much on how everything kind of shakes out. Yep.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, here's actually a nice little question that kind of piggybacks off of the last topic. David Richards, friend of the show, asked if they finished Star Trek: The Next Generation and Voyager, working on I'm sorry. I'm going to save that one for later. Wrong one. Chris Niddle, friend of the show, Chris Niddle. What's the most common cause of bent pins on a motherboard?
User error.
Yeah, dropping something in it. I've done it. It sucks.
Yeah, the worst case I've ever seen was a former coworker who had, you would think that, a Foxconn placeholder, none of this previous employer. So.
I thought you were talking about, okay.
No, but the covers, the little plastic pin protectors, they're different. I'm going all the way back to older generations, but there was like a different one, and one particular cover had all these like columns on the inside that on their motherboard was fine because of the way it mounted, but if you put it into a different manufacturer, LGA, it would crush the socket. It would crush pin. Like this is like there was an unrecoverable. I mean, they were like, and he just put them on and he just like clamped that sucker shut, and it was just like, oh my god, it looked like somebody took their thumb and just ran them across them, and just like that does happen. But I think most of the time it's it's user error. You drop something on it, or
That hurts just hearing about it.
Oh my God. It was just like, and oh, dude, he did it twice. I'm like, stop doing that, man. You're like, yeah, look at because, you know, you sort of assume, well, you wouldn't make it, so it would damage. Like, no, I guess you did. So, yeah, he damaged.
That's why I always leave that thing right in the box that I'm putting it back into.
Yeah, you always leave it in the box, right? Because if you're going to return for RMA, you're told you need that cover to be in place for your RMA, except for Newegg. Yes.
That's totally the top reason, though. People doing dumb or unfortunate things.
Yeah, and you know I still think like $500 motherboard. There's no way you're just some low budget rookie. Somebody screwed up badly on that one. So
it happens. I've messed up the pins in a $500 motherboard. I only messed up the pins in one motherboard, and it was a high-end Asus motherboard, and it was on deadline, and it was very unpleasant trying to straighten that out.
You can straighten them.
Yeah, you can.
It's very difficult, so it really is.
Well, maybe that's the note Newegg should have put in with the box to Steve. Like, hey, you can straighten these, Just in case
that's why it's 30% off.
Yeah, you can. I mean, if you want to, you can.
The bummer thing was like, how was that like given like? Because you would think like, well, it's like, hey, you know what? It's $200. Yeah, take your risk. But it was like the full-on $500 though. That was like,
yeah.
And that box, what happened to that box? It's like, oh, can we go slide that down the alley or something? I don't know what happened to the edges in that box. Somebody clearly had abused it.
That's still the craziest part to me. The fact that after Steve was complaining, they didn't just open it and go, oh my God, how did this ever get out of here?
Oh, I'm sure they did. Friend of the show, Rurutu says, do we think AMD is going to charge more for iGPU going forward since it takes another chip and more processing?
I think it has to be built into the business model. If that's something that everybody sort of demands in their CPUs, and they sort of have to price that in, which generally means prices go up. But if Intel keeps prices down and they have to sort of eat that out of their cost, you get now integrated graphics because they have to compete with Intel parts that have it.
12600K came out, and you're starting to see better prices on the 5600X.
Yeah, well, I saw an article that said like the 5800X is the lowest it's ever been or something. Yeah, crazy.
Competition's good, right?
Yeah, right. LB has a question from earlier. Is that an HP laptop on your desk, a Ryzen or an Intel? Also, do you think AMD's revolutionary laptop iGPU performance makes Intel Thin and Light's obsolete? 2 questions.
I don't. Well, one, this is an HP. It's a commercial class laptop. It's the Dragonfly Elite. It's an older 8th gen laptop. I love this thing. Commercial laptops. I know people think, oh, that's just crazy, but you get a lot out of commercial laptops that you don't get in consumer laptops. So that's worth a look. I don't think that AMD will make Intel Thin and Light obsolete. I think Intel has they still have a lot going for them. We'll see how it shakes out on the CPU side and the graphics performance and power. I think what we have is a really good ball game. I think we are really, really going to see awesome choices, especially now that we're seeing AMD into premium laptops. It's only better for consumers. You're going to get way better hardware than you ever would have gotten, say, 5 years ago in the same price range, because you can pick between AMD and Intel, and they're competing. Prices are lower, more features. That's the way it's supposed to be, unless you buy Apple products.
Yep.
Okay, got some good ones over on Discord here. Ozo Rojo asked, how long do you think it'll take for DDR5 to reach reasonable prices? 2 years, maybe?
What do you think, Brad? I kind of think
a year.
It feels like we're kind of getting better. I was looking last night. I think 32 gigs of 6400 even was about $500, which is like, damn, that's a lot of money, but that's better than $1,800. And it's one of those things. The fact that everybody has to pump it out for all AMD products going forward and most of the Intel products going forward means it's going to get here a lot sooner than you expect. So I think 2 years is, I'd go with a year. 12
That's
months.
my thought too.
That sounds.
Oh, didn't you have a DDR question that you got a text on?
I do. I have a question from first time listener Greg Viederman. I used to, be a big time person in gaming. He wants to know DDR4 versus DDR5. I can telegraph that question because I know he asked that question. He will ask because Greg is by the way, he's the former editor of PC Gamer. I used to work with him across cubicles, and we used to have a lot of fun with each other. Messiest person I've ever. I'm messy.
Gordon is messy. So you saying he's messy? That's something, dude.
Greg Viederman is like, you got to be kidding me, because it was like I've never seen actually facilities come down and say you need to clean up your area. They've never said that to me ever. My coworkers have. They pull jokes on me. Greg Viederman was like, you need to clean this up because it's a tripping hazard. So, he wants to know DDR5 versus DDR4. Viederman is a gamer. I'm going to say, frankly, for most people, DDR4 for gaming purposes is the best bang for the buck. It's hard to justify paying for DDR5 for gaming purposes. So I think you can be perfectly fine building a DDR4 Alder Lake system for gaming. Especially because, you probably don't need that high core count for most games, traditional games. He's an old timer like me, so he's not going to be streaming and doing all that other stuff at the same time. I think the problem is for also old timers like me that like bleeding edge, it just feels painful. Like DDR4, that sounds old. It's one less than DDR5. The other upsides to DDR5 is you get if you're, you have the IGP, you're feeding it way more bandwidth. There's a huge uplift in Premiere, by the way, if you're using DDR5 versus DDR4. And also you can get way more memory, higher memory capacity out of DDR5 eventually. But if all you're going to do is play games, I'd say do DDR4. But I know most people that play in that, like, I got to have the best thing ever, will do DDR5 anyway. So,
do you know? I mean, you're making assumptions he's just gaming, or did he say that?
Yeah, I just knowing Greg, because again, every 4 years he'll surface and he doesn't pay attention to stuff because he doesn't have to anymore, and he'll go like, "What should I buy?"
So he's probably looking at Alder Lake, right?
Yeah, he's looking at Alder Lake.
Like a mid-range Alder Lake. I guess the real question is, do you recommend? I mean, because when you're sitting here talking about Alder Lake, you were like, who would ever buy DDR4? Like, go DDR5, go Windows 11. So, but you're walking that back for him. You think DDR4, and he would go Windows 10?
That was the 12900K discussion, just to toss that out there, which is very different than a more mainstream one.
True.
Yeah. So, and again, if you're building, $200 mid-range board, that's almost entry level for Alder Lake. So mid-range board with a mid-range part, you're going to go with DDR4. It seems weird to do DDR5 because it's like, you're going to do everything. You're going to do this one thing at 11. It doesn't, to me, make sense. But again, I knowing Greg, I mean, for God's sakes, people don't remember. Greg was like the Veed. Like, you say who the Veed was, people are like, oh my God, you know the Veed? So Greg is not going to do a mid-range build. My guess is he's probably going to do DDR5 with an i9 part because he's the Veed. So yes, do DDR5 for that reason, but for most people, no.
Got it.
And that's, most people, I think I've said before, DDR4 is fine. It just doesn't feel like it's worth taking that nosebleed, but we say that, and our systems are full of high-end parts that we don't need and don't use because it's cool to have them. So.
Oh yeah. Here we go. A couple more. Pedro Barbosa asks, is it usual that the combo with the same power specs, saying Intel with an NVIDIA GPU, tend to work better than Ryzen with an NVIDIA GPU, or is it a placebo effect?
On desktop or?
They don't say. I think they're talking laptop.
Oh,
I don't know if that's necessarily true, is it?
Well,
I'm sorry. They made an edit. Is it usual that the combo within the same power specs, Intel with NVIDIA, tend to work better than Ryzen with NVIDIA, gaming wise? Oh,
yeah. If we're talking power spec, we're talking laptops. I would say, yeah, Intel has the advantage of, generally better performance, especially 12th gen on lighter threaded performance. Also, again, Ryzen 5000 did not quite get that bump in gaming that we saw with Ryzen desktop. My theory is the cache just wasn't as big as desktop, right? Because it's a laptop part. So they didn't solve that Ryzen gap that was from 1000 to 4000. So generally, yes, Intel will probably perform a little better in a lot of stuff. You're also getting Gen 4 for your SSD. Does that make a difference? I don't know. You are getting a by 16, especially with Tiger Lake. You're getting by 16 Gen 4. Doesn't make it. But I think you also have to realize you buy a Ryzen 7 or a Ryzen 9 with a 3080, you are in great shape no matter what. So yeah, there's going to be some things where Intel and will perform a little better than that Ryzen-based laptop. I don't think it's really going to matter, especially for what a lot of people do if you're going to be playing at 1600p, 1440p with everything turned up. It's not going to make that much of a difference to even sweat about.
They followed up and said desktop.
Oh, okay. Well, never mind that.
Desktop.
I would, yeah. Well, then
I don't know. It would depend on the power supply or on the CPU power and all kinds of stuff. There's way too many variables. I would say that this generation, RDNA 2 is more power efficient than NVIDIA comparable GPUs. So.
Oh yeah. So are we talking about like all AMD versus Intel GeForce or Intel plus Radeon?
No. Intel plus NVIDIA and Ryzen plus NVIDIA.
Yeah, so I don't quite understand the power envelope question there because
they're just saying they're saying with the same power specs.
Oh, so like price.
Yeah. So at the same level, they think that Intel plus NVIDIA works better than Ryzen plus NVIDIA. Yeah,
when you're looking at especially what Intel's giving away at that mid-range part and lower end, yeah, it's going to be 12th gen all day for a gaming system with NVIDIA. I don't. They're just generally giving you more right now because they are trying to come back from a bruising few years of losing, so they're giving you all kinds of price performance on mid-range. So I would say definitely Intel, but again, if you're playing games, newest games at high res with everything turned up, are you really going to be able to tell the difference between one or the other? I bet most people could not.
All right, a couple more, and then we'll get out of here. Dark Helmet has a good one about Windows. Multiple choice question related to Windows 10 support. You ready? When 2025 arrives, Microsoft will, number 1, push out the end date. Number 2, make more hardware officially supported by Windows 11. Number 3, stick to their guns and cut off support for Windows 10 and many older devices. Number 4, other. What do you pick?
I think they're going to push out the end dates to some degree. I don't think it'll be quite like Windows 7 was, but I think they will push it out at least just a little bit, possibly. But if not, I think they're going to stick to their guns and get on board or get off board.
Yeah, I can see they will. I would agree. They're going to push it out, but they're going to say, no, this is it. This is a line in the sand. You do not cross the sand.
So push it out once.
Yeah. Well, I think they're going to push it out more than once because that's just always the way Microsoft has done it because they understand people don't want to move. But in their corporate customers, the problem is their corporate customers are the ones who just don't want to move. So they're always acquiescing to the corporate customer. Fortunately, that sort of benefits everybody else. But I think they always push it out, but I don't think they're going to allow people into the Windows 11. You're not going to be running your Skylake on Windows 11, basically. I don't think.
No, me either.
It'll be like just
good timing for Google to release that Google Flex OS though, like basically turn any old PC into a Chromebook, even desktops. So that might be an interesting option when that rolls around, but we don't have to worry about that for years.
Can you play GeForce Now on that? Is that
sure can?
Nice. Eek44, friend of the show, says they have a 12900K with a 3090. It's all water cooled plus lots of RGB.
Yeah.
Is 1,000 watts enough if they're going to do a big overclock on their system?
I think it would depend more on the CPU side, so I'm going to defer to Gordon on this. I think it would be fine normally with the 3090. Like if you had like a Core i5 or something. If you're going to overclock the graphics card, I think you'll be fine and leave the CPU alone. But if you're going to overclock the CPU, that might very much change things.
Yeah, I mean, I would think you might be kind of close to the limit depending on what you're doing. Which sounds kind of crazy. And again, I have no expertise here. I have not looked at power consumption of an overclocked high spec rig. I would probably feel a little more comfortable with more power, because you also have to realize your power supply on a hot day, the output goes down. So, but you're probably okay, especially if you're buying a high quality power supply, not like me where I buy whatever is included with the case. So you're probably okay depending how hard you push it. And also have to think about all the other crap you have in your case, all the RGB and all the fans, because that does add up too. So you may want to get a watt meter and look at how much power you're pushing. That's probably the safe way to do it.
I'm seeing an enthusiast overclocked everything to 5.2 gigahertz on a 12900K in October. You do that, you overclock the GPU a little bit. I think 1,000 will get you done, but I would definitely personally, if I would invested that much in the system already, would go for 1,200.
Yeah. Because especially if you're, and again, you're overclocking, and if you're like, oh, I'm going to overclock it and I'm going to run AVX hardcore on all cores on that 12900K and then overclock my 3090 on water and run everything hard. Yeah, that's on a summer day with no air conditioning in the office. That could be a problem.
That is a baller system. And if you are on Twitter, please tweet me a picture of that system. I want to see it.
Yeah, it sounds cool. Sorry, it's not a question, but I'm going to turn it into one. Kyle, a friend of the show over at Hard OCP TV, says they think both AMD and Intel are looking to do away with low-end GPUs and replace them with APUs over the next 4 years. What do you think?
Oh, hell yeah. That you can see that line coming, like, hey, you've been rubbing our faces in it for years, NVIDIA. You've just been rubbing our faces in it. Like, here's a little bit of pain, like you could bet that Intel and AMD would like have no problems trying to like, hey, how do if they could go out of their way to hurt NVIDIA by pushing APUs that can offer pretty comparable performance, they're gonna do it. I mean, why wouldn't you, right?
Yeah.
Like that's just you would do that just for fun because of all the payback, all the pain that NVIDIA has given you over the years, and that payback is going to be so sweet if they can do it. And of course they'll do that, and AMD will bust out, or Intel or NVIDIA will bust out like, hey, yeah, 3080 for $150 or something like that.
I totally agree it's going to happen. And if it does, I can't wait for the day when we can just consider every PC to be a gaming PC. So,
right. Yeah.
Gaming enough PC at least.
I like that. And the last thing before we get out of here, Gordon, I looked up the Steam database. SteamDB.info has all the information about the most played games of all time. Or I should say peak concurrence. Can you guess? I'm as some of these I'm actually pretty surprised. I'll say Grand Theft Auto 5 is at number 16 with 364,000 peak concurrence. But there are 5 of them that have been over 1 million. Can you guess one of the 5?
Well, Dota 2 and Counter-Strike.
Okay, those 2 are the 5. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are the other 3? What do you think?
Maybe Rocket League is so new on Steam, but Rocket League is really popular. It's just that 60s. It's new. It would be way higher, I think, if it were there.
Rocket League gained steam real slow, so it launched and didn't do anything for 2 or 3 years, so it's like a slow burn.
66 at 147,000 was their peak all time.
PUBG.
Yep, there we go. Number 1 by a landslide, 3,200,000. That is huge. Number 2, actually, surprisingly, just displaced Counter-Strike at 1.3 million. Lost Ark. I had no idea this Lost Ark thing, like brand new. It's like coming out of the gates hot.
What the hell is it?
It's a MMO.
Yeah.
And then surprisingly, number 4, the last one to cross 1 million was Cyberpunk. Yeah, so a lot of people playing Cyberpunk when it first come out, and then just got
their Steam refunds.
Yeah, just got their refunds. So, wow, yeah, okay,
yeah. They'll be like, hey, yeah, we're not gonna. Where's my refund? Yeah, we're giving you a Battlefield 2042 license. They're like, wait, hey, what?
Actually, oh, you know what? Funny enough. Sorry, one last point on this. Number 15, one slot above GTA 5 is Gordon's favorite, World of Warships. At
No.
Yep, at 379,000.
Yeah, but if you
concurrents.
ever look at that, it's like 80% the top 4, right? It's like, and then the rest are like you're playing,
No, actually, I mean, yeah, because I mean, from 6, so 6 is like 900,000. 7 is where it drops off to 500,000. So from 500,000 down to 300,000 are the top 200 spots, or I'm sorry, 20 spots. So World of Warships is in there within a lot of the big players.
You know what I've realized about that game though
What?
is if I criticize everyone for playing this game for being dumbasses, and I only play this game, doesn't that mean I'm a dumbass? And I will admit I must be a dumbass because I keep playing this game, and everybody else who plays this game is a dumbass because they're not like play the objective. None of them do. So, although I do wonder if we're so used to Steam being like the end all for PC gaming, but I realized a few months ago that really isn't anymore because you have competing markets that really draw a lot of gamers, and a lot of them, like my daughter and her friends, they play games that are not on Steam. They do play some on Steam, but there's a lot just in other competing marketplaces now. I do wonder if you have to look at like Epic and whatever Valorant is and whatever these other kind of markets just to get a better picture of PC gaming, because it seems crazy, but Steam is actually probably a lot smaller than we expect it to be these days. It's still big, but I just think that there's a lot of other markets that are just not included, and they probably should be.
I agree with you to some extent. I think Steam will cover the vast majority of what anybody cares about, but I think things like Minecraft, League of Legends, Valorant, all that stuff would show up in that list if it was on the Steam number, but it's not. So, but people know that, I think.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Then let's get out of here. Lindsay says Gordon has become self-aware with World of Warships.
Because I realized like what is wrong with me? Because that's now in introspection. What is wrong with me? I'm bending pins on motherboards and sending them back anyway, playing this World of Warships game when everybody knows.
Escamonster says takes courage to admit it. And then also Tequishan says shots fired at Jay's 2 cents.
Now I realize why he's so angry all the time.
You should tweet him. You should tweet him that.
It makes sense now.
All right. Let's get out of here. I'm hungry.
Check back next week for your Fix It PC Talk on the Full Nerd. For audio listeners, subscribe to us on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, or Stitcher. And if you're on one of those services, please leave a review. Every time you do, someone bends a pen on the motherboard and sends it back to the retailer, pretending they didn't damage it.
No, that's not good. You don't want that to happen.
Yeah.
So we want people to review. We don't want them to send.
Every time that happens, somebody bends a pin on the motherboard and sends it back to the retailer with a full confession saying they bent the pins on the motherboard. Please don't sell this to someone. And they tape it to the outside of the box, which flies off in the UPS truck. Send questions and comments to thefullnerd@PCWorld.com. Thanks for coming. I'm Gordon Ung with Brad Charkis.
Adios, y'all.
And Adam Patrick Murray is going to hit the off switch.
Thank you, everyone. Yeah, that was a fun show. Thanks for hanging with the changes. I know change is weird, but change is good. Lots of changes coming. So anyway, thanks everyone. Have a good one. Rest of your day. See you. Bye.